Imagine for a moment that you wake up in an unreal place, a place where the time passes slower, where the colors become music, the music becomes texture, and texture carries you into a reverie state with a dreamlike atmosphere of calmness and hallucination. Now imagine that you can feel all of this through music. Is this possible? Yes, certainly you can. Welcome to Dream Pop World. Dream pop is a term to describe an alternative music style, originated on the 80s and strengthened almost on the early 90s. Although, defining dream pop is not simple. Actually, at the time, it does not exist an official definition because of the great amount of styles, influences, and origins it includes. Even the musical critics have not found an exact chronological line of the genre. That is why it will last almost a decade to consolidate as a musical genre. It has a great variety of musical, aesthetics, and visual elements that together makes a genre that seeks a connection between our conscious mind and the subconscious world. Listening to dream pop makes you literally dream, cry, and it makes you feel that your memories are still lifelike. Dream pop is the gate that unites reality with that dreamlike world, capable of create unimaginable worlds of dreams, nostalgia, and memories of life. Throughout this documental, we will make an objective dive to all dream pop world, trying to explain why it's one of the most beautiful genres that exist in music. Musically speaking, dream pop is a genre that tries to create atmospheres, ambience, and musical textures beyond the harmonic chords progression or guitar riffs. In most of the cases, the voice is soft, almost a whisper, that creates dreamy ambience. That is why the name Dream. The lyrics usually tries to explore the deepest memories, dreams, nostalgic things, the gratitude to behold the sunset in the middle of the beach, or the romanticism of life. With ambiental and shiny synthesizers, creates an imaginary, ethereal, dreamlike sound, all together with the dream pop sound itself. Through its evolution, the genre searches new ways to make dream pop, creating new subgenres and musical styles. But how can we know that we are actually listening to dream pop? Despite the great diversity of sounds and styles that the genre in general embraces, I can mention 3 characteristics so you can know you're listening to a dream pop song. First of all, we have the use of effects on guitars. Dream pop uses effects such as chorus, reverb, phaser, vibrato, and delay to give that atmospheric and dreamy character on guitars. The guitar playing is focused on atmospheric and ambient sound rather than the melody. The second characteristic are the voices. Because in dream pop, the voice is not always the main character of the song, but rather comes to be perceived as one more instrument within the set of sounds. Although it is noticeable, generally in dream pop, the voices are soft, almost a whisper. With echo and reverberation effects, the genre seeks to create an ambient of spatiality and reverie. The third characteristic are the lyrics. Dream pop usually explore mainly the dreams, nostalgia of the past, memories, the romanticism of a summer afternoon, or the amaze of life itself.
If we turn back now, then we'll never know. We'll go where the sky is gold.
But beyond these characteristics, in fact, any song that can carry you to a dreamlike state, then you could be listening a dream pop song. That is why there is such a variety of styles and shapes that can be considered as dream pop. Dream pop can be divided in two big eras throughout its evolution in history. The first era, which started on the early 80s, and it would be consolidated on the 90s, is characterized by a more atmospheric, darker, and ambiental sound, and the second era that would start around 2010, with more modern and shiny sound, getting rid of the atmospheric sound to make space to harmony and melody, a sound more aimed to alternative rock and pop. But which are the genres that influence the creation of this sound, and under which branch can we place dream pop in music history? It was early 80s. Post-punk and new wave were genres practically consolidated in the musical industry, so new bands started to opt for a renovation and style evolution. Some bands began to create a darker and slower post-punk sound. Taking influences of goth wave, they created a branch into gothic rock. The genre was evolving to create new genres such as dark wave, from which new subgenres would soon emerge. But now, we are going to be focused on ethereal wave.
Voice in a sense, a shiver through me like a skewer.
Another branch of post-punk and new wave were the bands that followed the path to alternative rock, which would emerge new genres. But for now we will focus on European neo-psychedelia movement, confirmed by bands who took up the roots of 60s psychedelic rock but mixed with alternative rock new influences.
I saw you fly, shadows on the trees where you lie. You gotta get ready for me. Is it real?
There were so many genres that although they were different musically speaking, they did share the same philosophy, not to belong to big record companies. Instead of that, they opted for a more homemade production with independent record companies or create their own productions. So quickly, different magazines and publications started to catalog as indie rock as part of the indie movement, which was coming since a lot time ago. And more than a musical genre, is a movement. It's an independent way to create music. New subgenres were created from indie rock such as slowcore, post-punk revival, garage rock revival, and post-rock. Of course, there are infinity of genres inside indie rock, but for the purposes of this documental, I will only mention these ones. Same thing happened with pop bands that did not belong to the mainstream of music industry. Creating their music independently, these bands were soon classified as indie pop, which included productions of twee pop, noise pop, power pop, chamber pop, among others. At this point, we have already identified, in a general way, two alternative music currents at the beginning of the 80s, the darkest and the gothic side, and the more alternative side. Now, what would happen if we took the musical influences of gothic rock, the ethereal voices and instrumentation of the ethereal wave, the bright sounds and guitars of neo-psychedelia? Well, dear friends, this fusion would give the first manifestations of dream pop. Its path began with a more oriented dream pop to the Gothic trend, with ambient, dark and dreamy sounds. Later, it would branch out to a more oriented way to the alternative movement, creating a dream pop with more pronounced guitar chords and almost no distortion effects, focusing more on the melody than the atmosphere. I want to emphasize that these styles should not be seen as dream pop subgenres. They are only different styles in which we can understand dream pop, but I will talk about them later. And if we incorporate dream pop into this fusion of genres and add distortion inherited from noise rock, we would begin to hear the first shapes of shoegaze. Dream pop and shoegaze, two genres that were born in the same scene, in the same historical context, in the same place, and over time would give a lot of discussions about whether these two genres are the same or not. And here is where our story begins. Shoegaze is a musical genre that keeps the same musical structure and the same arrangements of dream pop. Like we saw in the genealogy part, they both have the same origins. We can almost say that they are the same. Even many magazines, blogs, and YouTube channels take dream pop and shoegaze as the same genre. And even though they form a part of the same movement, nowadays we can find some differences between them, such as the guitar intention. Shoegaze bands perform guitars with more distortion, influenced by noise rock or by the no-wave movement, bands like Sonic Youth or Swan. In fact, there were so many pedal effects used on guitars that in live gigs, the guitar players of shoegaze bands were constantly staring down to change the effects and modulations. It looked like they were just watching their shoes. Quickly, the press started to describe them as the bands that were only looking their shoes, therefore the name of shoegaze. On the other hand, dream pop's guitars were based on the creation of atmospheres. We could say that dream pop is focused on the sound atmosphere and shoegaze more on the texture. The voices on shoegaze generally are more rough and less understandable because it blends among the distortion, while in dream pop the voices used to be more auditable. Although, at the end of all, these rules used to be very diffuse and are not very clear, so there are bands that had a dream pop sound on one album and shoegaze sound on another, or even on the same album, we could find sound on one side or the other. Then, does not matter if it's dream pop or shoegaze. The thing that matters is when you listen to a song, it could take you to a different plane, to make you feel in a dreamlike atmosphere. Make you feel how beautiful it is to live and remember. Through time, each genre were evolving and forging their own style and unique characteristics. But before we continue with this evolution of genres, let's start from the beginning. Who were the pioneers on starting the dream pop sound, and which was its evolution? As we saw in the genealogy of dream pop, it was born by the mix of plenty genres at the 80s, but this fusion would not be realized from night to morning. Rather, it was a process that started at early 80s, being an organic and slow process. Almost a decade after when it started to talk for the first time about dream pop. The beginning of this story can be located in the United Kingdom at early 80s. There were 3 releases where we could start to listen the first manifestations of a dream sound, with guitars that started to have a more atmospheric intention and a dreamy voice.
But 12 o'clock has come and gone, the Berlin train.
There was a boy I almost
On June 1982, it would arise in Grangemouth, Scotland, one of the most iconic and influential bands on dream pop's history, a band directly influenced by the underground Gothic scene that was consolidating in the United Kingdom. Influenced by the Gothic rock of The Cure, the darker post-punk of Bauhaus and the dark psychedelia of Siouxsie and the Banshees, was forming the mythic band Cocteau Twins, with its first record, Garlands. But why is this band considered to be so important? Despite that Cocteau Twins, on its beginnings, was considered as a gothic rock and post-punk band, you could even identify elements of new wave. Its sound has something different. They were sounding on a way that no other band of the era was sounding. This is where the first protagonist of our history comes in, Robin Guthrie, guitar player of the band, and who would have reinvented the sound of the guitar in the 80s. Guthrie, inspired by the guitar player Roland Howard and the pop group, he began to create a more atmospheric sound on guitars, integrating layers and layers of sound with few chords, through loops that were building the structure of the theme, and constant use of effects and modulations to create those atmospheric and ambient guitars. All these with the addition of the dreamy, angelical, and soft voice of Elizabeth Fraser, introducing the glossolalia. That was the art of apparently talking an unknown language through syllables without comprehensible meaning at all, with a religious and mythological hint. And the drum rhythms, inherited from post-punk and ambient synthesizers, made Cocteau Twins a band that would set a new style of making music. With its second record, Head Over Heels, the band still maintained the post-punk and gothic rock influences, but the guitars started to have more atmospheric and ambient character. It was not until 1984, with their album Treasure, that they put aside their post-punk sound to create a more dreamy sound, with beautiful sound passages, more marked and organic drum machines, and for many music critics, this album is the one that would mark a beginning in the history of dream pop. Soon, it would start to emerge new projects under the same influence. Our second protagonist in this story would be the English Ibo Watts Russell. Russell was the founder of 4AD, one of the most important label records in the history of dream pop, because it was one of the first labels to look towards the bands with this new sound and take them beyond the United Kingdom. In 1984, Ibo Watts Russell decided to gather several label artists, members of Exmal Deutschland, Colorbox, Modern English, the Wolfgang Press, Cocteau Twins, Cindy Talk, Dead Can Dance, and Howard DeBoto to create the super band This Mortal Coil. and with it their first album, It'll End in Tears. Iba Watts-Russell, as the bandleader, creates this experimental music piece, full of cold and reflexive soundscapes, perfect instrumentations that look like a full orchestra with atmospheric drone sections and dreamlike ambient. At this time, the term dream pop was still unknown, for that the album was considered a gothic rock, ethereal wave, and ambient neoclassic piece. But what they did not know was that they were setting the gothic dream pop basis. This new sound began to gain more popularity, and soon new bands started to adopt this new way to make music. On November of 1985, it came to light the album which sound would mark the beginning of a new stage of music history. The album Psycho Candy from the Scottish band The Jesus and Mary Chain, who mixed the dream pop sound with more distorted guitars and rougher voices. For a lot of musical critics, this album was the one which set the shoegaze basics. Since that moment, this new sound was already expanded for all over Europe, reaching the United States.
Holding on to the one blue spot.
We reached 1987 now, and with it, our third protagonist of this story, Alex Uyuli, band member of the British Arcane, experimental music band which mixed atmospheric sounds of dream pop with soul and jazz, and for a lot of people were the beginners of post-rock and trip-hop. During an interview of the band by the British press Melody Maker, for the first time, Alex Uyuli mentioned the term dream pop to refer to the music style the band was performing. The journalist Simon Reynolds was in charge of spreading and popularizing this new term, and finally, after almost 10 years, it would have a name, an identity for all the musical scene of atmospheric, psychedelic, dark, and dreamy sounds. It began since that moment, the dream pop as a musical genre. In the United States were born the big dream pop bands, such as Galaxy 500, and in 1989, the second album, On Fire, was released, which helped them to consolidate as one of the most influencing bands of the genre in the United States. With beautiful melodies by psychedelic guitars, slow beats like slowcore style, and great guitar solos like the American style. In 1990, Cocteau Twins reached the top of their career, and with it, their album, which for a lot of people was the most influencing in dream pop's history, an album that defined the whole era. Between atmospheric guitars, hypnotizing pianos, and more defined drums, came into light Heaven or Las Vegas. In November of 1991, in Dublin, Ireland, one of the most significant and influencing albums was released in this new shoegaze scene, an album that followed the same noise trail that Psycho Candy left, an album that came to consolidate definitively the shoegaze. I am talking about the album Loveless, from the band My Bloody Valentine, led by the mythical Kevin Shields. This album shows a perfect combination of dream pop with distorted guitars, great amount of effects, layers and layers of distortion, and experimental sounds. This record is an authentic shoegaze masterpiece and consecrated My Bloody Valentine as the most important reference of shoegaze in music history. Later, another band on charge of consolidating dream pop on the music map was formed, and that until today we cannot speak of dream pop without mentioning Slowdive, a teenage band led by Neil Halstead, with the dreamy voice of Rachel Goswell. Between love affairs, addictions, failures, and heartbreaking stories, in 1993 comes to light one of the most important albums in the history of dream pop, So Blackie. With a nostalgic dream pop full of feelings and melancholy, but with that dreamy touch, an album that stays on the middle between dream pop and shoegaze. Although several years had to pass away for Slowdive to be given value and recognition that their music deserved, nowadays is considered as a cult band.
As the sun hurts, you'll be
The 90s era was marked by a release of many albums that finished to consolidate dream pop. The 90s came to an end. Dream pop and shoegaze would have a stage of decline, because in that moment there were two giants that practically hoarded all the music industry. In United States, the grunge, and in Europe, the Britpop, that led all the popularity lists, which made several record companies stop betting on bands with dream pop and shoegaze sound. However, this would not be the end at all. On the contrary, it would be a new rebirth of dream pop. Some bands were dissolved, some others changed to new genres, but other bands started to fusion dream pop with new music styles and sounds to create new genres. It would start the evolution of dream pop. Some bands began to mix dream pop with electronic ambient music, which had been creating since the 70s, with artists such as Brian Eno. From this fusion, the ambient pop would be created. Also, it came to be given a fusion with Britpop, and soon, dream pop would start its evolution towards a more oriented road to indie music, giving the result of a dream pop more focused to alternative music.
And this is what you can't explain. I need to take a long trip on a train. That's what I see when I see your eyes. That's what I see when I see
2006 came, and with it, a project from Baltimore, United States, a band that would give dream pop a new sound, fresher, modern, minimalist, but without losing that dreamy touch. Beach House would born with its first homonym record, Beach House. Alex Galley and Victoria Legrand would reinvent the dream pop sound with simple guitar chords, calm, soft, and whispering voices, creating an aura of melancholy.
Let's lie down for a while. You can smile.
In 2010 came their third album, Teen Dream, that would consecrate the band as one of the reference of the new dream pop.
Your love is stand in the white sand. Wastes time.
Since that moment, it would come a new wave of bands that gave new air to the genre, more focused into the alternative way. It would start the second era of dream pop. The genre did not stop evolving, and near 2010, several projects started to mix dream pop with synthwave, or also called retrowave, an electronic music genre formed around the year 2000 that mixes electronic music with sounds, samples, and a visual aesthetic from the 80s. As a result of this fusion, it was born the chill wave, a new genre with dream pop sounds that tried to remember the 80s sound with an electronic lo-fi. Synthwave and chillwave were genres that helped to consolidate a new wave of projects that were born on the internet. Remembering the 80s and 90s nostalgia through the aesthetic, a visual style with a retro hint, Asian elements, glitch art, beats, and low-fidelity sounds that created vaporwave. Under the same style current were created the dreamwave and more recently the future funk. Near 2016, new independent artists started to mix the dream pop sounds with hip hop, funk, soul, and R&B, like the pure do-it-yourself style. Artists that were musicians themselves. They also produced, mixed, and published their songs on the internet. Many of these artists were consolidated thanks to the millions and millions views on YouTube and the streaming and music platforms. And they did that just on their houses' bedrooms. Well, from home studios and improvised studios. And that is why soon some digital platform began to name this new way of making music as bedroom pop. Bedroom pop goes beyond the musical style. It is a way to gather those entire projects that surged and gained popularity mainly on the internet, creating music like do-it-yourself style. It is also important to highlight the enormous influence that dream pop had in Asia, because since around 2010, a strong Asian scene of dream pop and shoegaze had been gestating, so much that bands have toured all over the West. In fact, it would take a complete documentary to go deeper into the Asian scene. Nowadays, in Latin America also exists a very important dream pop scene. In the 90s, Soda Stereo was one of the first bands to integrate dream pop and shoegaze sounds on their productions. In recent years, this scene have been taking a lot of force thanks to the rise of new bands that starts to give new air to Latin America dream pop. Today, despite the fact that there are many bands that still remain loyal to the original sound of dream pop, the genre has branched out a lot, so it's practically impossible to define each and every micro-genre created since the new fusions of sounds and styles.
So can I call you tonight? I'm trying to make up my
Since a mixture of dream pop and dance pop scene, R&B scene, hip hop, funk, even dream trash, a metal subgenre that comes directly from black gaze, which integrates ambient elements and voices inherited from dream pop. On the other pillar is shoegaze, which started to fusion with more distorted guitar genres, creating new subgenres such as grunge gaze, drone gaze, surf gaze, and noise gaze. And later, a shoegaze revival would create the new gaze. Other projects began to fusion shoegaze with post-rock and black metal soundscapes, leaving black gaze as a result, or also known as post-black metal. Later doomgaze would be created, and dream trash that I already mentioned before. However, shoegaze has a great variety of sounds, styles, bands, and influences, which will be in another documentary where we delve into it. As you see, dream pop has several influences and also gave the origin to new styles and ways to make dream pop. So today, we can make a classification of the most representative styles of dream pop. Just like I mentioned before, we must understand that these music styles are not dream pop subgenres. They are just a way to classify and understand dream pop in different styles and intentions. Even a full dream pop album can cover two or more of these styles. First, I would like to stand out the ethereal wave style that already incorporates dream pop's elements. We have a dream pop that is actually influenced by the 80s gothic scene, as well as the dark wave, with more experimental and dark sounds combinations, gives us a gothic dream pop. The most melodic, dreamy, and rich in environments, we can find it in melodic dream pop. A dream pop with less guitar effects or almost none. Instead of that, more acoustic guitar sounds, but without setting aside the soft voices, we have acoustic dream pop.
Look so young and you talk so old, lighten up, babe.
A dream pop mixed with Britpop music and 90s indie music that would give us a different dream pop style with a much more alternative sound. A style where the most dreamy and nostalgic voices of dream pop and the more environmental shoegaze mixes to create dreamgaze, the most spatial, emotive, and epic style. Finally, we have the most experimental side of dream pop, where electronic arrangements or more experimental sounds are included. For all of this, I meant that talking about dream pop is not an easy task. Due to the large amount of origins, influences, and fusions, aesthetics, sounds, and evolutions that dream pop involves. But we are sure of something now. Listening to dream pop takes you to a dreamlike state. It can make you feel memories of your past again through the reminiscence of the present. It can make nostalgia something beautiful. It makes melancholy a beautiful melody that takes you to the deepest part of the soul. It makes you look the world through the thankfulness. Thanks to dream pop, we have remembered to dream. We have remembered our deepest memories. We've remembered to live. Beholding a sunset, a landscape, a flower, contemplating the life itself, because at the very end, we are all gazers of this universe. We are gazers of our own life. We are all dream gazers.